There will be spoilers ahead. Lots of spoilers, so be careful, won't you? Welcome to another episode of Max Mike Movies. Welcome as well to the beginning of another series called Focus on John Cusack. We're going to be looking at 4 of Mr. Cusack's films, trying to leap through his career like a gazelle springs through the 7 seas in hopes of making sense of this actor's...
7 seas?
Yeah, you know, the way gazelles do. Is he just another pretty face that made a lot of romantic movies, or is there more to him? Does he like pancakes in the nude on the beach, or is he more of a rolling rock and cake kind of guy? Those are questions we will tackle, but to help me with all this rough stuff is the guy with the gramophone over his head trying to keep it wound, Max Dobler-Levine. Say anything, Max.
I'm not coming out.
Yes,
you are. I like it here in the gramophone.
And
I feel safe here.
And I am the leader of the future sport, pike boxing, the human duffel bag Mike Luce. The first film up will indeed be that 1989 classic, Say Anything, which has a lot more in common with the TV show Frasier than meets the eye. But before we get to that, we're going to get to this, our poll question, which you helped answer.
Yes, you did. And you have to live with that.
Poll question. It's not a curse. They won't answer the question. Stop it.
That's what you told me when I opened the tomb.
Stop. Listen, King Tut. All right. We asked, who is your favorite actor who started in TV but later made it big in the flickers? You brought these folks to our attention. Val Coons gave us 2. Tom Hanks from Bosom Buddies and Denzel Washington from St. Elsewhere. I think they both went on to do something.
That Hanks guy sounds familiar, but I can't place him.
I think he was in a cartoon or whatever.
Yeah,
Thanks, Val.
Was he in that movie about D&D or something?
Oh, yeah. See our entire episode on yet. Never mind. Her assistant, Steven, lumped together, quote, pretty much most of the SNL cast and Jennifer Aniston. Oh, and Stephen Carell, end quote. Thank you, Assistant Steven. Dave gives us Tony Shalhoub. Oh, is that where Tony Shalhoub came from? Who is in Wings and Monk, among other things. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Dave.
That is true.
Can we get a Dave out of you?
Dave!
Thank you. It's not a show unless you go Dave.
Yep, you got to go Dave with both barrels.
That's it. Next up is Tony Kellner with George Clooney. He started in ER, I think, and didn't he play Batman once?
No.
I don't know.
He did not.
My head can't stop shaking. I don't know. Good call. Thanks, Tony. Here's one I didn't see coming. Jessington Miller offered Alan Alda. I think of him as more of a TV actor, but he has done some films.
No, he did a whole bunch of movies. Yep. That's true.
And then he came back to TV.
Yep.
Thanks, Jess. Steve Strickland and Brian Mundo posted The Rock, and he has been all over the place lately, hasn't he? I hear he can sing.
I've heard that too, and I've heard he's actually pretty good at cooking.
I've even heard he's a nice guy, which
I'll
take
kind of annoying.
Yeah, stop being so nice. Okay.
Yeah, come on, man. If you're going to be that good looking and that built, you could at least be a jerk.
Yeah, that's what Hollywood
Did you learn nothing from Mark Wahlberg?
Ooh.
Yeah, tell me I'm wrong.
Anyway. Thanks, Stephen Bryan.
Yeah.
Tyler Stewart went out on a limb and gave us Johnny Depp, though he admits Depp is not his favorite person now. That's what I've heard. Thanks, Tyler. Get it? Yeah. Too soon?
Yes, we all got it.
Mostly I just don't care. And lastly, from the site, Snowy gives us his take. Quote, to be honest, I can think of actors who made the transition successfully like George Clooney or Johnny Depp, but I can't say I have any favorites. I didn't have a TV when I was a kid, so I think I never thought much where I saw actors, but I liked more what project they were in. Not a great answer, I know, end quote. Still, thank you, Vince. And Vince is an old friend of mine. I did not know he did not have a TV when he was a kid. I literally can't make that sentence make sense. Because Vince is so, not clued in, but so tied to, well, he actually does like a lot of weird stuff, like Faster Pussycat, Kill, and things like that. So, anyway.
That was never on TV,
No. Thank you, Vince. What about you, Max? Who's your favorite ex-TV Now cinema star?
I got 2 of them, really. One of them is Robin Williams.
Yeah. Okay.
The other, just in terms of how much he changed from his TV persona, is Lawrence Fishburne. The first time I remember him being on TV was on the Pee Wee Herman show as Cowboy Curtis.
That's, yeah. I actually remember he was in an episode of MASH. He played a bit part.
Yes, that's right. But yeah, didn't he have like one line?
One or two.
Yeah.
Nothing big there. I'm not sure he did much TV, but he very cleverly
there.
He got out as quickly as he could. Robin
How about
Williams.
you?
Well, Robin Williams,
Okay.
Mark and Mindy always felt like Robin Williams deigning to do a TV show.
Oh, it was the Robin Williams show, and everyone else just sort of tried to hang on and stay on camera.
Yeah, in focus.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge Robin Williams fan, mostly because I think often he goes too far and his energy level kind of eclipses whatever he's in. That being said, he did have a really interesting range. He actually started doing stuff other than comedy, sometimes from very tragic characters. And so I got to give him a lot of credit for that. The ones that popped up to me, the two obvious ones are Clooney and Hanks. But actually one I'd forgotten about because I didn't realize he'd had started in TV was Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, you mean from Sherlock?
Yeah. Which is TV. And to be fair, is still my favorite role of his. I think he does a good Doctor Strange. I still am I'm less suspect of his accent in the second movie than the first, but it's still like, where are you from again? Oh, America. Okay. So, yeah. But as usual, you all came up with great answers, and we'd like to shower you with Bumpy Bucks, the cryptocurrency that hasn't yet bottomed out, but as it doesn't exist, we'll just thank you a lot.
Excellent.
There is a new question for this week.
Ooh, tell us.
What romantic movie couple do you wish you could check in on 20 or 30 years later? So this,
I call Boris and Natasha.
Yes, Max, you can answer that next week, just like our listeners will. But let us know, won't you? We'll tell you how at the end of the show, just to keep you listening. Right now, let's move on to trivia about this week's movie.
Oh, let's.
The show. Budget, $16 million. Take a guess. This was surprising to me.
85 million.
21.5.
Oh, wow. Didn't do that well at all.
It didn't. And I didn't actually put this in the trivia, but it was there. Apparently, the reason it did at all well was sort of directly tied to Siskel and Ebert. They both really liked the movie and pushed it on. I actually think they both said it was one of, if not their favorite movie of the year.
Wow.
Lloyd's, the character Lloyd, played by John Cusack, his sparring partner, did you recognize him?
I knew it from the credits. That was Don the Dragon Wilson, who he references in the beginning.
Yeah. And
by the way, there is another a connection from this movie to Grosse Pointe Blank. A CR review on Grosse Pointe Blank.
Isn't Don the Dragon Wilson in that too?
No, Benny the Jet Arquette
that's right.
is.
And
he's the ghoul.
If you've ever seen Benny the Jet, you don't forget that face. That's a
very distinctive face.
That's a good way of putting it. Yes, distinctive.
Also, Benny the Jet Arquette was John Cusack's kickboxing coach.
Right, and we're going to get to that in just a few seconds here.
Yeah.
This is director Cameron Crowe's first film. He'd later go on to direct such movies as Jerry Maguire, Almost Famous, Vanilla Sky, and We Bought a Zoo. See our previous episode on Almost Famous.
And our upcoming one on We Bought a Zoo.
No, we're not going to be doing that, I hope. This is the same martial arts dojo as used in, do you know what film?
Nope.
The Karate Kid.
Oh, no kidding.
So those little kids will grow up to be Ralph Macchio.
Or worse, they'll grow up to be the Cobra Kai boys.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know if you noticed this. I did, and I was like, where did that come from? That scar in Lloyd's right eyebrow?
Yeah?
Yeah, Cusack put that there himself.
Intentionally?
Yeah, it was supposed to be part of his backstory. Apparently, when he was a kid, some other kid threw a rock at him, and he wanted there to be a scar. And I'm like,
okay.
Sure.
Interesting, sure.
I missed this. I totally missed this. There's a point where Lloyd is driving around town in Seattle, and there's a theater in the background, and you can see the marquee. Do you know what film is playing at this theater?
16 Candles?
No. Tapeheads.
Oh!
Which came out a year previous.
Nice touch.
Yeah. I don't know if that was real or they put it up there, but that was kind of cool. This is Bebe Neuwirth's first film. And she gets to be in the same film as future father-in-law, Fraser Crane's dad. I mean, it's John Mahoney, but what?
Yeah, but let's face it, he's Fraser Crane's dad.
Crane's dad.
In all my notes, I just referred to him as dad.
Yeah. This film has made it to quite a few best-of lists, including Roger Ebert's, as I said, and the 1001 Movies to See Before You Die book, although it didn't do well. A third member of the eventual Fraser cast would be the city of Seattle itself.
Oh, okay, sure.
Even though a lot of it was shot somewhere else. Okay. John Cusack and Ione Skye had a bit more than on-screen chemistry. Ione admitted that, had they not both been in other relationships, they likely would have gone home with each other after shooting the teach her to drive the stick shift scene. Yeah.
Okay.
There was a
Nice touch.
planned TV series that was all set to go into production
Oh, I think I heard about that.
until it was learned that director Cameron Crowe did not approve. The plug was yanked.
That's kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
That, oh, what, the creator doesn't like it? All right, we won't do it.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, the creator won't like it?
We'll just name him Floyd Bobbler.
R Turbo.
Yeah. Philip J. Fry. This is not Cusack's first role. It was his 14th, but it's probably his first iconic role, I would say.
I still think Tapeheads. I think his Tapeheads role is pretty iconic, but only to us.
Well, so few people saw it, which is too bad.
Yeah.
Before, I have a little bit of trivia on Mr. Cusack himself. Before I do that, do you have any trivia you know about the movie itself?
Well, just that even though she is not in the credits, his sister, Joan, is in this movie as his sister.
Joan, no.
No, Constance.
Yeah. I didn't realize she wasn't in the credits.
No, she's uncredited, but
That's weird.
It's weird because she has a significant presence. She doesn't have a lot. She only has like 3 scenes.
Yeah.
But, she's very much there.
And now, because we're doing a little mini series on John Cusack, I'm going to do a little bit of background on John Cusack.
Okay.
He was born in 1966 in Evanston, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. His father was a documentary filmmaker, which likely had some influence on young John. He's the baby, with sisters Anne and Joan being actors before him. A real-life kickboxing enthusiast, he's trained in the sport for over 20 years. Interestingly, he's never been married nor had children. I'll try and do a bit more as we go on for the rest of the series, but for now, the plot. It's graduation day in Seattle and all the kids are going. Our main interests are school valedictorian Diane Court, played by Ione Skye. She has a doting father, played by John Mahoney, who wants nothing more in life than to provide everything for his daughter. The other main interest is Lloyd Dobler, an army brat living with his sister and her child, played respectively by John and Joan Cusack. Seems Lloyd has set his sights on Diane, whom everyone assures him is way out of his league. And they're right. Thing is, Lloyd is actually a decent guy. He cares about her almost from the beginning. Diane's been kept constantly studying and finds out, when invited to the big graduation party by Lloyd, that she doesn't really know anyone. Though he's seemingly directionless, Lloyd and Diane click, even when she's given a full ride to a prestigious British college. Lloyd has only 16 weeks to try and make something of the relationship. All the while, unbeknownst to both of them, danger is threatening in the background as the IRS zooms in on Dad as he's been caught fleecing customers from his old age home. It doesn't help that his disapproval of Lloyd is fairly obvious. Will love conquer all? Is prison really all that bad? And will holding a boombox over your head and playing Peter Gabriel songs really get you into the cinematic history books? Watch and see. The Lowdown.
That they can't watch because they can just hear us.
The movie.
Oh.
My first note is Frasier Dad. Sadly, I did not remember John Mahoney's name. The two things I knew about him was Frasier Dad and that the actor himself is gay, which was really surprising because I think he was the only one on that series that you wouldn't have pointed at and said, "Is that guy gay?"
Yeah, pretty much.
Although the only other
he also sounds like he spent most of his life gargling hot asphalt.
Yeah, I appreciate the cringe-worthiness of the scene where he's singing in the car.
Oh, I love that. He's so happy. He's just gotten the letter that his daughter has won the Reed Fellowship, which, by the way, is a big friggin' deal.
Yes.
It's a real thing. Deals with the Reed College in England, and it is a incredibly prestigious award. And he's driving to tell her, and he's singing along with Ricky, Don't Lose That Number.
Sort of.
Well, he is reciting the words, and you can hear his vocal folds bleeding.
And he does.
I gotta say, the music in this is so friggin' 80s.
Yeah.
One of the things I really like about this movie is how immediately you know the characters. That Cameron Crowe has a really good way. I can't describe it. He gives a character just a little bit to do, and you instantly know everything about them.
Yeah, which is a rare thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, at the high school graduation, it's one of the early scenes. It's before Diane gives her speech. She's the valedictorian, superstar, academic, one that either everyone didn't know or hated, because she would have blown the hell out of the grade point curve.
Yep.
The previous class speaker is just some guy singing, again, I put that in quotes, singing The Greatest Love of All.
Yeah, boy.
Badly.
He actually made John Mahoney sound good.
Yeah, and everyone is really into it and waving their arms and cheering, and it's like, you know this guy. He was the guy, he was the popular guy, the class clown.
He's a jock.
He's going to be working at a gas station in 4 years.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Just as a little sidetrack thing, this I was going to do later, but you brought it up, graduation. So the high school that we graduated from, graduations were not entirely traditional.
Not really.
You went in a tuxedo, didn't you? Or no?
I wore a tuxedo shirt.
Okay. Even though the rest of the people in my group said they were going to do it, and none of them did,
That's
came
all right,
dressed.
make you stand out.
Oh yeah, I came dressed as my D&D character. So I was wearing chainmail that I had made myself, and boots, and I had a dagger.
Sword.
No. Well, I did have a sword, but I also had a dagger strapped to one forearm, and leather gauntlets, which was hot.
It was awesome.
And a big black wool cape that I borrowed from our church priest. Because why he had a Dracula cape, I don't know, but he did. And somehow the principal did not see me until it was time for me to come up and get my diploma. And we hugged our principal. We actually liked he was an interim. He only lasted a year, which is too bad. But I went to go give him a hug, and he just pushed me back, and he looked me up head to toe. I was like, what the hell? I was like, hey, go with it. And so it was fine. But yes, and I do have photos. We didn't have anybody jumping out and screaming, not Ricky, don't lose the number. What was it? It was the
greatest love of all,
or anything like that. But it was, and we didn't have to wear the cap.
We didn't wear the gowns. These guys are all wearing the polyester gowns and the caps. That's very much a standard sort of graduation. Yeah. It's also, there are a couple of things that just mark it as, it really marks the time when at one point Lloyd looks around and you see all the parents are pointing these enormous camcorders.
Well, later on, there's a scene where he's putting a movie in for the people at the old folks' home, and he's sticking a tape in a VCR, and I was just like, the VCR!
Yep. You see the FBI warning and everything.
And I also just thought so this is a scene, we're going to go, I want to cycle back to the characters, but there's a scene at this VCR where he's at this old folks' home where Diane lives, and it's her father's old folks' home.
Yeah.
It works, yeah, she doesn't live there. And she goads him into going because she is like, they're nice, you should meet them and whatever. And he decides to show a movie for them. And what movie does he pick? He picks Cocoon. It's like, here's a movie about old people who get to be young again, which you don't get to do. I couldn't tell if that was meant to be a joke or not.
I don't know.
So Fraser Dad, who's actually his name, it's Court, and I can't remember his first name, but Mr.
I believe it.
Is it John or Bob?
I've forgotten too. I think it's John.
But. Yeah. The only thing we don't get right away, and spoiler, there's this subplot which I mentioned, is that he could be a thief, which turns out he is. And it's actually, I thought that was actually a really interesting twist, because the guy is just so focused on his daughter. And
he obviously just loves her. I mean, not creepy, not obsessive.
No, although he does use that phrase that usually makes me wince, which is, I'm a father and a friend. And it's like, I don't want you as a friend, Dad. I want you as a dad. And it's possible that he's been a little bit overzealous, right? I think part of her estrangement from the rest of the class is him being a little bit protective, but mostly just making sure she studies to get this thing.
It's not clear if he's been pushing her or if that really she is that ambitious, because you could believe she is. She has that dictionary in her room that Lloyd's looking at, going, this is, he's this huge dictionary. He said, I used to make a thing of marking the words I looked up, and he's flipping the pages, and just about every word is marked. This girl read the dictionary. Yeah.
And she's very typically the smart girl who, in this case, because it's the 80s and it's a rom-com, happens to also be pretty. I mean, it's Ione Skye.
I love the description. She's a brain trapped in the body of a game show hostess.
Yeah. I mean, also, Ione Skye's name, She gets 10 points just for that.
She has such a cool name.
She does.
I love that name.
Yeah. So we understand her right away. The nice thing is they don't take her to an extreme.
No, she's not like socially inept.
No.
She's not clumsy. She's not
She doesn't wear
awkward.
glasses.
She doesn't wear glasses and then take them off. And no, she's gorgeous to be at the beginning. And she knows how to dress.
Yep.
She's not a misfit in that way. She is just, unfortunately, a genius surrounded by ordinary people.
Yeah, and Lloyd is one of them.
Yeah.
And Lloyd, as John Cusack, John Cusack is just sort of fully formed. I believe he came out of the womb and he was John Cusack. Like, his character is so cemented. Now, and to be fair, I don't know as many of his earlier films, but pretty much this one, to me, from here on in, you're going to get John Cusack. Especially in the rom-coms. And when you said that the director, Cameron Crowe, has this way of letting characters do things and you instantly know who they are, that's John Cusack. And I don't know that he has a type, but it's John Cusack.
You immediately know who he is. And I love the way he's presented when he's saying he wants to ask out Diane. And he has these friends who are his best friends. And I like they don't really make much out of this. They're all girls.
Yeah, which I think.
And I'm saying girl. Yeah.
How are you straight? How does that work?
Which one of them, by the way, is Lily Taylor, who is awesome.
She's the redhead, right?
She's Corey.
Yeah.
The musician.
Oh, God, Corey.
Yes. Oh, we'll talk. We got to talk about her. But
we will. Yeah.
She's saying, when he's saying, I'm going to ask her out, and they're trying to convince him not to because, our kinds do not mix.
Yeah.
She's a brain. She's like, we just don't want you to get hurt. I love it. He just looks and says, I want to get hurt. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
That's as a teenager, that's unbelievably brave. He's like, he wants to take a chance. He wants to make himself vulnerable. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Man, don't let them stop you. And the nice thing is they also appreciate him, which he just starts going out with her and the girls are sitting there talking about, I mean, come on, if you were Diane Court, would you fall for Lloyd? And they all sit there and they all start going, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Lloyd is a really nice guy, and I don't mean that in the, you could crumple him up and blow him away. It's
he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a good person.
Yes, and one of the scenes earliest on that I really like is him playing with his nephew. This is little kid Jason who's like 4, 5, and he has got this rapport with this little kid. They totally get each other. They're almost more like brothers. But instead of being like a high school guy who's like, oh, I don't want to deal with kids, he's like, he calls him J-Man, and they're just like, they're buddies.
They're playing together. They're in these scenes where even when he's depressed after a breakup, you see the two of them lying on the couch and the kid's completely at ease, and Lloyd is not like pulling away. He's glad the kid. There's no dialogue. He's just watching TV, and he's this thunderous look, but his whole body language is attuned to the kid.
Yeah,
it's adorable.
And it tells you one thing right there, although it's not true in real life because he didn't ever have any. But it's like Lloyd's going to make a great dad. He is going to be like even better a dad than we think John Mahoney is. Spoiler. But yeah. Corey, let's get to Corey. Corey is a hoot.
I wanted more of the movie to be about her. I'm sitting there watching. I want this to be the Corey and Joe movie. I want to see more about that.
Oh man, what a train wreck that is!
Again, talk about immediately knowing a character. The character Joe.
Yeah.
Who is this boyfriend, apparently, who's been like messing with her head. She attempted suicide over him.
Yeah.
He has like 2 lines. And you immediately go, I hate this guy. This guy is a douchebag. He is just awful. He's the worst kind of toxic male.
Let's get back to that, because I think is going to be a very important part of this movie. Corey, though, one of the things I'm amazed you left out, the other reasons we know immediately what's up with her is Lloyd tells us she wrote 68 songs about him. So
yes, they're all, when he's telling Joe to keep away from her, he's like, she wrote 68 songs this summer. They're all about you. They're all about pain.
Yeah, and then he says, this is another way we know Joe's a douchebag. He's like, yeah, I got a tape. Someday it's going to be worth a fortune. It's like, okay, that's great.
I'm like, Lloyd, please kickbox his head off.
Yeah, I do like Corey. I think I worry for her.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to end up well, especially because she and Joe look like they're going to get back together. But she's interesting. And
she is, and smart and creative, although the songs we hear
are not
really that. I mean, Lloyd keeps saying how talented she is, and it's not really an indicator.
But you know what, though? She is. That is exactly the kind of song you would write in high school.
Yeah,
exactly the kind of thing.
That is true.
Later on, and it's weird, it's such a throwaway thing. It's right after it turns out Lloyd and Diane have had sex. And to Lloyd's credit, he does not tell them. They figured out it's not that hard.
Well, he's glowing.
Well, Lloyd is just wandering around the basement, which she has every guitar known to man. I thought it was.
I thought they were in a guitar shop.
It's her basement.
That's her home.
Yeah,
oh my God.
All those guitars are hers. He's just wandering around. And he's playing the guitar, and he's actually playing it pretty well. And I'm like,
yeah.
Are they going to talk about it? No, Lloyd just does that.
Yep, it's just sort of there.
And Lloyd's character, we find out, he's living with his sister who had a failed relationship with a guy. She had a kid who's J-Man Jason, who, if I remember correctly, is the son of, do you know who this was?
I don't remember.
Barbra Streisand and Elliot Gould. Yeah.
Oh,
Jason Gould.
Okay.
Or something, Yasmin Gould, but yeah. So she's living in a one-bedroom apartment, and his folks are off in his father's, I think,
Germany,
in the
Armany.
Armany?
Yeah.
He's in the Armany. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
the Armany in Germany.
That's what it is. The army in Germany is, in fact, the Armany. So they wanted him to move in with his sister, which is obviously there's some friction there, as to be expected. But you can also tell most of the anger or most of the uncomfortableness comes from the fact that his sister, Constance, is having to deal with being a single mother and is still upset about the relationship failing.
And she's clearly not that much older than he is. So she's very young, and she has a small child.
Yeah.
She's got difficulties. But again, it's still clear she loves Lloyd.
Yeah. And he loves her, and you can tell he also loves the kid.
It's a really nice family dynamic they have, and it's barely shown.
Yeah.
But we know it immediately.
And Lloyd... this is such a hard thing to depict or even to experience and have it not go the wrong way. Because initially Diane says no, she's busy. She tries to give him all of the usual cues. I'm not interested. And the thing is that she eventually changes her mind, not so much because Lloyd keeps pressing, but it's the way he keeps pressing. Because when Lloyd gets nervous, Lloyd talks.
Yeah, he talks a lot, and he tends to reveal more of himself. And he doesn't regret it.
No, but it's the
she
only
realizes
time he
there's something kind of interesting about him.
And I think also when she goes to the party, she realizes, I don't know if I know anything about anybody.
The party is a great sequence. First off, we realize she doesn't know anyone, and everybody knows Lloyd, even though he's only been at school for he's been out for like a year because he was with his family in Europe. But everybody knows him and everybody likes him.
Yeah, he's not a standout. He's not like, oh man, it's cool, Lloyd's here. It's not like that.
No, it's just like, hey, Lloyd, how you doing?
Hey, Lloyd, hey, I'm glad you're here. But of course, he also gets stuck with the keys. He gets to be the key man.
He is the key master of Gozer. Did you recognize the host of the party?
I didn't.
That's Eric Stoltz.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, glad he did not end up being in Back to the Future, because,
Yeah.
So real quick, there's another one of the little talking points.
Yeah.
During your senior year or graduation or everything, did you go to a party like this?
You mean a graduation party like that? No.
Mine wasn't a graduation party. Yeah?
I had a party. It was nothing like that.
Was I there?
I thought you were. I don't remember who was there because... Basically, it started out with just a group of us gamers. So you must have been there.
I must have been.
And then about 50 other people just sort of appeared.
Well, that's how it was. This kind of party. So I did go to. It wasn't a graduation party. It was a senior year party. I did go, and there was a key person with a fishbowl.
Oh.
And it was music, and there was drinking because at that particular blink of a moment of time for like 6 months, drinking age was not federal, it was state. And in Massachusetts, it was 18, and I was 18. So, of course, I didn't. But I'm trying to think, from there, is that where we went to our chemistry teacher's house? I think it was.
Oh, okay.
That's where I got drunk.
I did like, at the party, First off, we get to see Jeremy Piven shows up in one of the first of his many roles that John Cusack gives him in his movies.
Okay.
And he is the one who tackles Lloyd at the end, going, "Give me my Firebird key." I love this moment because Lloyd flips him over and goes, "You must chill. You must chill. I have hidden your keys." I love you, man. I love you too.
I think the thing I like about that and the scenes with the kid and even the scenes with him calling up Diane is it shows so much about the fact that Lloyd is very centered and very capable. Lloyd is able to deal with things as they come at him. And he just will take care of things. And you can tell that as he grows older, and maybe this is because of having been an army brat and having to, not know as many people as often. Lloyd is just going to be one of those guys that's like, yeah, I took care of that. It's fine. We're all done.
Yeah.
Oh, the water heater broke. Yeah, no, I took care of it. It's fine.
He's very good at fitting in. He's very good at adapting. You get the feeling. He's just also, he's very competent. Even when he's teaching her to drive stick. He does that really well.
Because she doesn't.
No, she doesn't do well. But, hey, driving stick is hard.
Yes, it is.
Also, the scene, and she cites this when they're coming back from the party. They stop at a 7-Eleven. He sees a pile of broken glass on the ground, and he stops her and says, "Careful, watch out for the glass." And he goes over and he kicks it out of her way.
Yeah.
And she remembers that. It's like, wow, he's taking care of me. He's watching out for me.
Yeah.
And again, it's just a really nice moment.
And then it's tied with somebody who, in any kind of moment of crisis, emotional weirdness, doesn't come unglued, but kind of loses it. Like when he first shows up to the first date and he's talking to Diane's father, and he should have stopped at about the third thing he said, but he keeps going and he's like, "Yeah, I just want to. What do you want to do with yourself, Lloyd?" It's like, "I want to spend as much time with your daughter as I can." Don't say that. Or her father, but he does.
Well, Corey says to her friends at one point, he can't meet. He's going to a family dinner. That's terrible for someone like Lloyd.
Yeah.
Why? Because he does when he gets nervous, he talks.
Yeah,
and he does that whole speech of, "I don't want to buy anything, sell anything, or process anything. I don't want to buy anything that was processed or sold." It goes over. Yeah. It's a great little speech, but it's not what you say to your girlfriend's dad.
Yeah, basically, he can take care of anything that comes at him, but Lloyd can't plan. Lloyd has no idea of what he wants to do in the future. He likes to kickbox, but he even says, "I don't know if I'm good or great, and I'd need to be great to make it anywhere." And he's like, I've never been knocked out until the end of the film. Even there, it's not his fault. But no. He's like, Joe is, I think, and this is also potentially a reflection of that army brat background, is kind of directionless. The only direction he knows he could go in, he doesn't want to, which is to join the army.
Yeah.
And honestly,
as he says,
I think that would be a waste of Lloyd.
Yeah. And Diane is interesting, too. We find out that right after the party when she's talking about her past, her parents divorced when she was 13. We never really find out what happened with them.
No.
But she had to go to court and choose which one she wanted to live with.
Wasn't that awful?
When my parents were divorced, I was 7, and there was just... Back then, it was just a given. The kids went with the mom.
Right.
There was never a question about it. But the idea of having to do that at age 13, to sit there and say, "I want to live with Dad, not Mom," no wonder the one scene we see with her mother is so unbelievably uncomfortable.
Yeah. And, that was another thing that's like, I don't know that it was a necessary scene to see her with the mother, but I think it actually helped us learn more about Diane than it did the mother, because she's this is uncomfortable. I don't want to do this, but I need to help my dad, who's now being investigated by the IRS. Spoiler, he did it. And
Big Boy did it.
Big Boy did it.
Thank you, Mumbles.
And she's basically pleading with her mother. It's like, "Look, I know you guys divorced.
Just say something nice when they come to talk to you, because they're going to be interviewing him." They show up at his house in the middle of a dinner party.
Right.
And by the way, yes, the IRS will do that.
Yeah.
The IRS investigations are not fun.
Oh, I assume
They are, because the IRS has almost no oversight from other government bodies. They can do largely what they want. Mm. And They are very backed up. They don't have a lot of personnel, so they tend to be brutal.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're bad at it. I'm just saying they're not diplomatic.
Yeah.
That whole thing is, you're sitting there going, because we believe him, because John Mahoney, we see him as such this nice guy who dotes on his daughter, and he's so conscientious, taking care of these sweet old people, and the old folks' home that they're in looks, beautiful. Quite honestly, it looks like no old folks' home I've ever seen, and I've seen a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And it's clean, and everyone is nice, is dressed well, and really taken care of. And we're like, oh, this whole thing with the IRS, this is so unfair. It's obviously a mistake or a vendetta. And then we find out it's not.
Well, I like the way they introduce it, too, because Diane has broken up with Lloyd because her father's in trouble, and she is not slow, so hip, hip, hip. And
and he's been pushing her to break up with Lloyd.
Yeah, I think that he's...
subtly, but he's been doing it.
This is that point where the protective father becomes the overprotective father, and it's not done to any kind of horrible extreme, and let's face it, fathers and daughters, that's a thing. Dads don't like any boy their daughters go out with, and they're probably right. But she breaks up with Lloyd, and the saddest part of it is that Lloyd, you can see him struggling with it, and he's not being a jerk to her. He just wants to know why, and she won't
he doesn't
tell
understand, because he loves her. She said oh God, at one point she says, in that speech, I love you, but she's doing air quotes.
Yeah, and he's like, what is that? What are you doing with your hands? What is that? And the poor guy, I was going to get to this later. This film has I don't think it was necessarily meant to be this way, but this film has a big focus on toxic male masculinity. Because once he breaks up with her, he gets on the phone, and I think he's talking with Corey.
No, he's talking to his sister. I turned on the subtitle because I couldn't hear the name.
Okay.
He's talking to Constance.
And what does he say? He says, I feel like crying. And when there's a hint of a tear, he uses his fist and knocks it away. Literally punches the tear away. But he won't let himself do it because guys are taught not to do that.
Yeah.
And look at the father. Same thing. Dad, he needs to make money because he wants to make his daughter feel well because he failed in his marriage. So he does all these things, and it just shoves it away and doesn't talk about it, doesn't deal with it. He just keeps it away. And when, of course, things come to a head...
When things start coming down on him, there's that scene. It's actually a heartbreaking shot after his credit cards have been declined.
Yep.
He's sitting in the bathtub, fully dressed in his suit, huddled.
Yep.
And he looks so vulnerable and so pitiful.
But where is he? He's in the bathtub with the bathroom door locked. Yeah. Because that's the only way guys are taught to deal with emotions.
Yeah, he can't express it. The toxic masculinity, I think they really zing it to you in the sequence. Again, after Diane breaks up with him, also that horrible moment of where her dad is going, give him a gift, give him this pen, and he gives her this Mont Blanc pen, which those things cost a fortune, but it's a friggin' pen, and she gives him a pen, and he has that great line, I gave her my heart, she gave me a pen.
Yeah, but the scene you're talking about...
That was right after that. He's like, I know too many girls. I got to hang out with guys. So he's in the parking lot behind the AM/PM. For those of you who don't know, that's a 7-Eleven, Wawa's, whatever you want to call it.
Circle K.
With the guys, including Jeremy Piven and Joe.
Yeah.
And it's like the council of bros.
It totally is.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait, if you know so much about women, why are you hanging out here? And they all look blank.
Long pause. And then
choice.
Choice. Yeah. Oh, yeah, conscious choice. Do you recognize Steve Zahn was one of them?
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yes.
One of them. And he finds, you broke up with Diane, man. That's a brain, man. You need a stallion. And I was like, what?
Yeah, she's a show pony. You need a stallion.
Yeah, you need a stallion. Like, what? That's not what you think.
Yeah, and they're giving this. You got to find a girl who looks just like her and like mess her up. Yeah,
dump her.
Dump her. Yeah. And one of the guys giving advice is this kid who can't be more than 12 or 13. Bitches, man.
I gotta go. Yeah, and that's to me why I can't tell if this was something that's done on purpose or not, because Lloyd is part of the problem. Lloyd can't deal with his feelings either. I feel like crying. I don't do it because guys don't, right? And it's 89, so I don't even think the term toxic masculinity has come up yet. But to
Not
me,
yet.
I mean, that's part of what the title's about, right? Say anything. Every time I hear the title Say Anything, I think of Lloyd with the boombox over his head. That's not what it's referring to. The Say Anything refers to everybody in this film.
Well, it's specifically said by Diane and her father. He said,
Right.
You can say anything to me. And she
Right.
said, I always thought I could say anything to you.
Right. And there's that really tough scene where she's basically, there's the IRS guy, she sits down with him and he says,
Yeah,
"Look,
the IRS boss.
do you have a house that's nice and it's full of nice things, but not too nice? Is everything around $9,000, which happens to be the price of the jukebox and probably the ring?"
Yeah, does he give a lot of gifts? Does he work with does he buy a lot of stuff with cash? Are there a lot of rugs and a lot of artwork?
And the answer is yes.
And then you're suddenly thinking, oh, yeah, he fits the profile. And then she goes snooping around and she finds a big box full of cash.
Yeah, which is interestingly sitting out in the middle of the living room.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't. This guy is not a master criminal.
Well, and then she goes and she confronts him. After she finds the money, she goes to her father and she says, "I just need to know. Just be honest with me." And he isn't, because he can't
says,
deal with
swear to God. Swear to God that you didn't do it. I didn't do it. Then she just looks at him and says, I found the money.
And he breaks.
And you see his face just collapse.
Great little acting moment for John Mahoney, by the way.
Really good.
But that's the deal. That is the toxic masculinity right in the moment. It's like they can't deal with emotion. They have no idea. And I got to say, I was brought up in that time period. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I do the same thing.
It happens to me too. Absolutely. It's what we were supposed to do. But
I don't think that it was necessarily a point of Cameron Crowe or the screenwriters, but it's really cool the way it's portrayed, because you can tell it's like, well, if you could just cry, you'd probably be a lot better off, but he can't. And so Lloyd goes through this whole period where he's just like,
just angry.
Messed up. He starts making recordings to Corey. That's basically kind of like Corey's songs to Joe, right?
Yeah, they're his version of pain. Yep, his expression of pain. But I gotta say, on Lloyd's, in Lloyd's defense, he also fights against that stereotype. After they sleep together, he writes her this really sweet letter, just saying, "I'll always be there for you with all the love in my heart." He puts himself out there. He doesn't try to act cool or distant.
Well, he sort of tries to, and realize with the guys, and realize it's like, that's not me. I don't work this way.
Yeah, I can't do this.
No.
That's not who I am, and it isn't. And is that when she's confronted her father and she runs to Lloyd. This was always a scene I'm still not sure about. She's basically pleading with him to take her back, saying, "I love you. I need you."
Right after he has his nose broken.
Yeah, after he has his nose broken and reset, and he's standing there bleeding, and he just says, "Just tell me, are you here because you need me, or you need somebody?" And what I love is he goes, "Forget it. I don't care."
Yeah,
and just grabs her.
Lloyd
is so sweet, and it's just so. Again, he could have been an absolute monster right there, and he would have had, and no one could have blamed him. But he's like, "No, I don't care. I want you in my life. I don't care on what terms."
And then there's a scene where they go because the dad's been arrested, and he's
he's been convicted. What does he get? He gets 9 months in minimum security and a $125,000 fine, which these days would be about $300,000.
Yeah,
and for ripping off old people for decades.
Well, and he loses his business. It gets taken over by the state. Yeah. So he's going to be left with, I don't know, because we can't tell. The box doesn't have that much in it.
Yeah, also I'm sure that got confiscated. I'm sure no one's going to hire him. Yeah, his life is very badly damaged. And Diane is about to go off to England for the Reed Fellowship. And sort of the cherry on top is he figures out Lloyd is going to go with her.
Yeah.
And he can't stand that. He says to her, this is, again, I think, a real tribute to the character of Lloyd, because he is just awful to him. It's like, you're a distraction.
Yeah.
You're not part of her life. You're a distraction. Lloyd is hurt, but he gives him the letter from Diane.
And he more or less knows what's in it.
Yeah, he was with her. She's written several drafts because, of course, she has.
Yeah.
And he's like, the guy's like, he's reading it and his face is just falling. She can't still be mad. It gets better. If it's the part that ends, I can't.
Still can't stop loving you.
I can't stop loving you. And he wants to encourage him. He wants him to feel better. He wants the dad to feel better, even though the dad has never given him anything but grief.
Yeah.
And is responsible for most of the pain in their relationship. And he's still trying. As he said, you're a distraction. And Lloyd just says, yeah, I'm the distraction who's going to England with her.
He also, I think once again it comes up, what are you going to do? Who are you going to be? And he comes to this line, and it's like, I'm going to take care of your daughter. I'm pretty good at it. And it's like, this isn't a fairy tale, but you don't meet people like that very often, if ever. And Lloyd's just a good guy. And I think if you made this film today, there would have to be a scene where Lloyd does something crappy, or we have to see the chink in Lloyd's armor. And it's like, no, Lloyd's just a good person.
And he has no illusions. He knows Diana's smarter than he is. He knows she is going to accomplish stuff he won't. And he's like, I'm just going to be there for her. That's what I want to be with your daughter. I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, you'll be the woman behind the man, the man behind the woman. Why not?
Yeah. He may never come up with anything that he does particularly well, but if they have kids, he's going to be a great dad because he's already been trying to do that. I love the fact, and she says this, she admits this, when she tells her father they had sex. Oh my God, no. But she was like, yeah, he didn't want to. He was really nice. But then I threw myself at him anyway. And I'm like, she does.
Yeah, she's talking about, I was, I thought about it. I didn't want to complicate it, so I decided not to sleep with him. And you see Dad is like, oh. But then I attacked him anyway. He's like,
yeah.
Oh, God.
And to his credit, he doesn't blow his stack.
He doesn't flip his. Nope, he doesn't.
But she's so clinical about describing the whole thing. It's just so weird.
That whole sequence when they're in the car and they're playing, and Peter Gabriel is singing "In Your Eyes." Yeah. I'm sorry, that is so romantic.
Yeah,
it is so sweet.
Especially later on when we get to the boombox.
Yes, the famous scene.
Yeah, which interestingly, I knew the scene because I don't know if you
everybody knows the scene.
I didn't know it didn't have a payoff. There isn't any. He's just out there playing the song, letting her know from a distance.
Reminding her, and that's it. Then they go to a next scene.
Yeah.
She doesn't run out to him. She doesn't throw anything at him. But that's it.
And then there's also during the breakup, he's talking to Corey, and I think her name's Casey. I don't remember. Something like that. And he's talking about, I should do this. And they're like, why would you do that? And he's like, I'm a guy. I have my pride. And they say, don't be a man. Don't be a guy. That line
the world is full of guys. Yeah. Don't be a guy. Be a man. That's awesome. This movie has so many good lines.
It does, which is surprising. The thing that I found interesting was, at no point, and we start really with the party, the graduation party, at no point is the conflict level actually that high. That party could have, and should have, gone so much worse. There should have been somebody jumping off the roof.
People throwing up.
Well, there's one guy
but that's at the end when everyone's left.
And what does Lloyd do? He's the key man. He hands the back to the guy who's running the party, and there's one key left in it. They find the guy with his head next to the toilet, which... I've been to parties like that too. Yep. Strangely, they were theater parties, but whatever. Well, there was a lot of puke in that night. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
And goats. And
what?
He was at a farm. And
okay.
What does he do? What he should have done is hands the key to the guy who's running the party and saying, "He's your thing now. Put him on a couch, whatever." He doesn't. They puts him in the car on the first date with the girl he's been obsessing with. Well, that's not the right word. The girl he's been focused on for the last however long. He puts the guy in his car and tries to drive him home, only to find out the guy is so drunk he can't remember where he lives. So they spend the whole rest of the night driving around until finally, I think his name is Mike, I hate to say, says, that's my house, that's where I live. It's the morning.
Yeah.
So that's just lots of little things to let you know not only who Lloyd is, but who Lloyd's going to be. Some people change a lot when they graduate high school. Lloyd's not going to change a lot. This is who Lloyd is. He's done. He is, and I'm not saying he can't grow, but
This really is a role that Cusack had to do. You know, I don't know if anyone else could have pulled that off.
And there were other people up for it. I think Johnny Depp was up for it, and a couple other people were up for it. Apparently, they wanted to get. Let me see if I can remember who this was. Was it John Malkovich they wanted to get to play that? And somebody was like that, and he's like, I want to play Lloyd. Whoever it was, they were some big name they were trying to get, and he's like, I want to play Lloyd. And it's like, well, you're at least 10, 15 years too old for the part, but sure. Yeah. I think, I had one last talking point before we... So we see, this is a high school romance. We all know how those generally work out, but we're looking now at these two particular characters. We're looking at Diane Court, played by Oni Skye, and we're looking at Lloyd Dobler, played by John Cusack. Do you think they're going to last as a couple?
I don't know. I think so. And I think the movie gives us at least enough hope. That's in the final scene. Diane has a terrible fear of flying. She's never been on a plane. And the last scene is the two of them on the plane going to England. It's just taking off. And Lloyd is being the perfect caregiver. He's got snacks, he's got books, he's got crossword puzzles, he's explaining everything, because obviously he spent his whole life traveling. He knows everything about commercial airlines. And as you know, she turns to him and says, you know, nobody thinks we're going to work. And he says, you just described every great success story.
Which is true.
And as he's saying, now... things that go wrong in the first 5 minutes. Technically, it's either when things go wrong, it's on takeoff or landing.
Mostly.
And he says, as soon as you hear the ding, the seatbelt sign goes off, everything's fine, and they're just staring at it. And the last shot is them staring, and the screen starts to go black, and you hear the ding just as the screen goes black.
Yeah. I think that the two likely outcomes I see from this are they do end up staying together, and they are two happy people. They have kids. She's the breadwinner. He stays at home but does kickboxing or whatever. Or they do eventually grow apart, but it's utterly amicable, and they never lose touch with each other for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I can see either that.
And maybe that's me being a romantic, but it's like... sometimes you see those couples that are so in love, you just know it can't last. Like that kind of love just doesn't. It can't. And people in high school change.
Either that or it's too easy for it to turn into something dark.
Joe, I hate Joe.
Joe lies when he cries.
She's great. Who is she again? I'm sorry.
Lily Taylor. She's been in a ton of stuff.
She is a hoot. I like her
great.
a lot. But I'm pretty much out of my notes. What about you?
Yeah. I think I've I've covered everything.
Let's get to the roundup.
Yep.
The roundup. So Max.
Yes.
You had seen this before.
I had seen this a number of times.
Okay. Do you remember when you first saw it? You didn't see it in the theater, did you?
No, I saw it on VHS, I believe.
Of course you did, because
sometime in the 90s. Yep.
It's probably too long ago. Do you remember your reaction at the time?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was great because I had seen so many of these teen comedies, and while this does have some elements in common with a lot of them, it has so much heart. And it doesn't go for the stupid. It wasn't like juvenile humor.
Yeah.
A lot of these things, like a lot of the John Hughes movies, 16 Candles.
Which he was in.
Pretty in Pink. Are good. They're nice movies. But they're so stylized and so kind of almost cartoony. Even some of Cusack's earlier ones, like Better Off Dead or One Crazy Summer, where he's with Demi Moore.
That could happen.
Yeah, him and Demi Moore. Also, Bobcat Goldthwait is in it.
Oh, so he and Bobcat are romantic rivals. Okay.
Exactly, yes. Yeah, because, come on, look at the two. But
who want to go out with me? Okay.
All of the characters were just so interesting, and I wanted to know more about everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted Corey to have her own movie. I wanted to know more about the relationship with the dad and the mom.
Yeah. I will say that this film does have a style, and that style is white.
It's very, very white.
There are some people of color at the graduation party, but you literally walk past them.
They don't get names. I think one has one line that you can only sort of overhear.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was Seattle in the 80s. pretty white.
Right, very white. No tans even, but there you go.
Yeah, you know, that's still true. But
so you obviously rewatched it for the show.
I did.
What do you think
I
now?
did. I think it still holds up. The dialogue is still what gets me. There are so many quotable lines.
Yeah.
What about you? You've never seen this.
I haven't. I'd seen bits and pieces. Like I'd seen not jukebox. He holds a jukebox over his head.
Wow, he's strong.
He can do that. Yeah. And that was a very rare one because that one's actually one that plays albums. I don't know that I've ever seen an album playing. And a little Dave Brubeck never hurt anybody. So here's the thing. I really like the character. I like Lloyd a lot, and heck, I like John Cusack, or I wouldn't have picked him. And he's almost the most John Cusack in this film. Like that, this is it. If you're going to see John Cusack romantic comedies, it's pretty much right here, right now. I will say, and I did see this was true with a lot of the reviews at the time, I think that the storytelling is a little mushy. It's not that the tone shifts, it's just things seem to sort of drift in and out here and there.
Yeah, that is true. Plot points just sort of meander in and meander out.
And the
things that you think should be dramatic aren't.
And also, the level of conflict is never very high. Like, again, the party at the beginning, nothing really bad happens. Oh, there's a drunk guy who's, I love you. Okay, fine. That's it. And you have to drive Mike home because he's puking in the toilet.
At the party, yeah, but there's a conflict going on in that her father is about to be indicted on federal crimes.
But it's not like he ever gets literally dragged off, and she's left alone to fend for herself that we see. And when we see him in prison, Lloyd is visiting him out in the exercise yard because that's possible. And then she walks in.
It's probably minimum security.
I hope so. Because usually you have to be behind, some sort of barrier and talking on a phone or whatever.
Again, it depends on the level of security. This is a financial crime. If you're a nonviolent offender, and not to mention, this guy was not a spring chicken. He was probably not going to be stuck into his Supermax.
This guy, he's a finance geek.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's from... Anyway, but all of the levels, like even the breakup is bad, but it's not that bad. We don't see what probably happens with Corey and Joe, which I'm guessing is horrible. It's like it never, every time something bad is about to happen, it never just gets that bad. So it's kind of, that adds to the whiteness of the film.
It's kind of low impact.
That being said, I do really like all the people. I like Joan Cusack. She's not really in there much, but you can tell,
she's terrific.
She's also focused on her kid. She's having a hard time dealing emotionally with the loss of her boyfriend or whatever. Probably a good thing, but still. But she obviously cares a lot. She cares about what people think, maybe a little bit too much, but that's understandable. She's a single mom in 89. Mm-hmm. The father cares too much, and that's probably what caused it. I can see him justifying, because he's never that bad a guy. You can tell probably what happened was he's like, oh, my daughter needs this. I don't have the money. Well, Mrs. Smith is about to die, and I really have treated her really well and tried to do my best for her. She won't miss $50. The family must have $100.
Except it's not $50. Well, it's obviously tens of thousands of dollars.
Well, but over the years it's been. Yeah. So a little bit here. That's probably how it
started.
Probably
a few hundred here and there. That's the thing about the dad, though. He pretty much does not admit he did anything wrong. It's like, I took care of these people. Their families didn't do it. I took care of them. It's like, you stole from them.
Yeah.
You didn't ask their permission. You took their money. Right. They had specific wishes they wanted, and you took it.
Yeah, but you could tell, at least I thought we could tell, that that's probably what happened. Is it started off with $50, $20, and he justified it, and it's like, look, I made sure that all these people were comfortable, well-fed, clean, and as happy as possible in their last years. None of them missed the money because they're all dead. Their families weren't really doing without, although they don't know that. And I'm sure that over time it just built up into this story because, once again, guys don't know how to deal with stuff, or at least that's what we've been taught.
Yeah, he built up a narrative in his head and believed it completely, even if it had nothing to do with reality.
So, as far as a film, just as a presentation, I think it's certainly not the best Cameron Crowe's done, because other films of his I've seen I've really liked. I thought were a lot more solid, including Almost Famous, which I've never seen, but thanks to you, we have. That being said, the actors in this film and the characters in this film, just talking about it with you makes me like the film that much more. If you haven't seen Say Anything, it's not the wacky hijinks 80s teen comedy that you're expecting. It is not the Romeo and Juliet of 80s teen comedies, but It's got some characters you don't tend to see in it. You've got some really good people in there.
You have a lot of people who are not cliches.
No.
You have some very believable characters and some absolutely wonderful dialogue and some incredibly quotable lines.
Yeah. Even if it didn't make money, but there you go.
Did not, but it's stuck around. It is still very, very much with us, and for me, it's a big recommendation.
And I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah.
But we have a poll question.
What's our poll question for next week?
And you can't guess where I got the subject matter for this, but
no clue.
Which romantic movie couple, including this one, do you wish you could check in on 20 or 30 years later? Let us know. And how can you do that? Why? You can do that through our website, which is maxmikemovies.com, where you will find all of our episodes. We have episodes. I think I'm having an episode right now.
We have pens for our episodes.
My pants are on fire. We have all of our episodes, and they are all separated out and kept away from each other so they won't get into fights and cause problems or throw food. You can leave comments there as well about that particular episode, the poll question, or even about series or movies you'd like to see us tackle in the future. If you'd like to be more direct, please do. You can email us at maxmikemovies.com.
Yes.
We can also be found on the podcast app of your choice, including some that we don't want to be on, but you can't help that. So the Google, the Apple, the
Amazon.
The Amazon. Yep, we're on all of those things. You can find us there. And you can also find us, and apparently maybe for a little bit longer, on Twitter, because things are going real interestingly there. But Twitter or on Facebook, we can be found at Max Mike Movies. A lot of you do like to answer the poll question on Facebook, which is just fine. But now, at this point, Max will ask me what movie we're going to see next week, because we're not doing the thing the way we usually do it.
Yeah. Mike?
Yes?
What is the John Cusack movie we will be watching next week?
Well, we're going to move ahead a few years, quite a few years, to see if John Cusack continues to be John Cusack or if he's got anything else in him. But it's going to be a little late night for this movie, Max. We're going to have to stay up for this.
Oh, all right. I'll have to take a couple extra naps. Why? What time is it?
It is going to be midnight.
Midnight?
In the Garden of Good and Evil.
Not a Jethro Tull album?
Wasn't he on Beverly Hillbillies?
I think...
Jethro wants to be a rock star. So if you want to see Jethro be a rock star... No, wait.
Wait, what?
I'm
almost sure he's not in this movie.
This is a film, I'll be interested to see the trivia. I don't know if it made as big a splash, and I will warn you right now, it is a problematic film because it's got one of those people in it, in this case, namely Kevin Spacey.
Yes, warning, may contain elements of Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, kind of a lot. It also has... And he looks like he's about 12. Jude Law is in this as a very young man. But next week, join us at midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil and scones and snowballs and fish.
And orangutans and breakfast cereals and fruit bats.
Skip a bit, brother.
This has been a co-production of The Voice of Max and The Movie Wrench.